voice is going to be different in this podcast.
Yeah, it's totally going to be.
Everybody prepare for Jordan's voice to change as we go live with Chris Miller.
When I take on
You're
my
like
skater, surfer, bro accent.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Go ahead, Becca.
Hello, road dogs.
How you doing, everyone?
It's us again. We've been on the road for a few days now, and me and Sean, that one guy who's driving right now, my boyfriend who's along for the ride, if you didn't know, we were talking this morning as we woke up. We're like, every day that we wake up, our health and wellness seem to be going down just slightly further. And it's like, is that going to plateau at some point? Or by the end of this 2-week road trip, are we just going to be like fully dead?
I think it might plateau. Honestly, anytime your routine is thrown off, I feel like takes it a second to adjust.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
well,
here we are.
Here we are. So we've had a couple test runs with this episode already, and we weren't feeling it because we were trying to get coffee, and every time we'd pull off to some Dutch Bros, because we're in California now, it would be like an hour-long line, so we couldn't get coffee. We were feeling gross.
Yeah.
It's so smoky
I think I went
here.
all day yesterday without coffee, which was not
I think that was
fun.
our downfall.
That was the one mistake.
Yeah, but we're feeling better right now, so here we are.
Yep.
And so this episode we're just going to be talking about San Jose, talking about the Doobie Brothers, talking about house shows. Wait, what is that from?
You have to say it that way.
Wait.
Talking about the Doobie Brothers.
What is that from? Talking about...
Oh, what?
Isn't there a song that's like, talking about freedom, or something that's... I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
But anyway, that's what we'll be talking about. This is a bit more of a lighter episode of just some, like, this wild band in California.
California band. California Dreamin.
Yeah. And we unfortunately aren't driving straight through San Jose this trip, which we wanted to, but yeah, if you didn't know.
The wildfire situation is quite extreme here right now.
Yeah. It's definitely eye-opening because, I mean, we were in Seattle like for the few summers that like the smoke would be blown into Seattle, and that was really hard. But California is just covered in smoke right now, and I feel really lucky that we don't have to deal with this every day, and that it's only like a few days, because it really, like, you can feel it in your body, and it is not fun. And I'm just thinking about all the people that, I was talking about it yesterday, just like farmers and everything who are forced to be outside and are just working through the wildfire season. And it just really, I feel very privileged that we don't have to do that. So, but anyways, we're here. Doobie Bros. So Jordan's telling me about them, and
I'll do my best.
I don't know much about them, really. I mean, I know, like, I didn't really grow up listening to them. We didn't grow up listening to them that much.
Yeah,
but then recently we kind of have been.
Yeah, I feel like I just got really obsessed with them after our drummer Patrick introduced us. Probably more than 6 months ago. He's a big fan of them and also of Steely Dan, and both the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan have connections with each other because there's a couple members of Steely Dan that eventually played in the Doobie Brothers. So anyway, so he introduced us kind of to both of those bands, and then I got like obsessed. Yeah, if you look at my Spotify, you would be able to tell how obsessed I am with them right now. But yeah, Toulouse Street is my favorite album. That is from 1972. Toulouse Street has Listen to the Music and Jesus Is Just All Right With Me, 2 tracks on there that really kind of like catapulted them into fame. They've got a unique history because they had so much evolution within their band and change throughout the years, yet still held on to like some spark of originality that was continuous throughout. So like they had this uniqueness to them that was never really lost, even though they had so many band members come and go over the years.
That's
and their structure changed so much, yet still, and you can hear it very clearly in from album to album. So it's actually, I highly recommend listening to their earlier albums and then their later albums all the way through. Also, that's something that we don't do as much anymore, since unless you're like a vinyl collector, you're into vinyl. Listening to an entire album, because it's so easy to just like listen to a song and then put on a playlist on Spotify or something and it jumps around. But listening to an entire album like Toulouse Street it's just really fun to like listen through, and especially when a band like that has gone through such an evolution over their history, to try to listen to an earlier album versus a later album and really hear the difference. And one of the main reasons why they had such a their sound is clearly different in the later albums is because Michael McDonald from Steely Dan ended up joining them in their later years and becoming their lead singer.
Cool.
So he replaced... Now this is going to be... oh my God. There's so many band members that came and went in this band. I seriously can't keep them all straight in my mind. So,
oh my God.
But yeah, so Michael McDonald came in and replaced Tom Johnston.
So what is it that made you, because like when we were starting out doing this podcast, we're like, okay, we want to do music stories, we want to be like talking about these people. What made you like pick the Doobie Bros? Because I guess like our first episode, we're like Jimi Hendrix. We're like, okay, that's pretty obvious. He's like super well known in history. Doobie Brothers, like,
Doobie Brothers. Well, also this was the big one.
What are you?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest challenges in this podcast. Creating it for us was choosing the band we're going to highlight, because there are so many bands from these areas that we were like, well, I want to do them, but I want to do them. But what about these guys? So obviously very hard to choose. I mean, if you think of California, there's a lot of bands that come to mind and musicians. But I think that I was originally just kind of like looking up interesting California music stories or music stories from California bands or something like that. Yeah. And then one popped up that kind of caught my eye, and it was a story that Michael McDonald, later lead singer in the Doobie Brothers, was telling about an experience that he had, or experiences that he had back in his early days of playing music at house shows, and how crazy these house show parties were. And there was one specific interview that somebody did with him where he was telling about a specific story from one of their house shows in the early days of his career. Yeah. And that was it was just hilarious, and it stuck out to me also because we used to play house shows, which later in the episode we are actually going to be interviewing Chris Miller, who's a good friend of mine who we met a few years ago back in Seattle, but his whole music career was in the beginning pretty much just house shows, and that's how a lot of bands start, and a lot of musicians that we know and are friends with started that way. And so it was interesting. I was something I had no idea, I didn't know anything about with the Doobie Brothers history, that they were fully a house show band in their early years. And same with, and then Michael McDonald was not a part of the Doobie Brothers really during their house show years, but he also had house show experiences back when he was in a band, his first band called Mike and the Majestics. That was his first rock band. And so this is the story. This is Mike McDonald's story. So they were pretty much just playing frat parties, him and his two friends, and his sister was their manager, which is so great because we've had our cousin was our first manager. She still kind of is because we don't have a manager. So so there was one specific party that was extra crazy, and he tells it in just the best way in this interview. Pretty much he says that it started, him and his friends were playing this, I think it was it must have been a frat party. And so they're on stage, and they're playing a song called Hot Pastrami. So classic. That is just the classic song name.
That makes me want hot pastrami sandwich. We've been eating soups on our road trip, so...